The world of Heian is a fascinating planet. Visited by humanity during the Human Covenant War, the planet was covered in buildings and structures that architecturally mimicked both ancient human civilizations here on Earth and ancient Forerunner relics. It is a planet that has ultimately come under immense scrutiny and research by the Office of Naval Intelligence and numerous scientific research teams, desperately trying to find out the significance of this world. And the eerie thing about it is that there may be more to this world and its connection to us here on Earth than anyone was quite prepared for. In fact, it could be because of this world and the culture that once occupied it that we are even as developed as we currently are. Roll the intro. Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00, and continuing our theme of odd mysteries from the Halo universe, this video looks at one of the most fascinating and puzzling planets within the Halo universe and how it could relate to human culture here on Earth from the moment after the firing of the array all the way up to our modern day right now and 500 years into the future when humanity rediscovered this planet. Now, as covered briefly in the introduction, Heian is an interesting world. It's a terrestrial world that has extremely Earth-like conditions. It has a breathable atmosphere that matches almost perfectly to the atmosphere of Earth. It has almost identical gravity, the right conditions for liquid water to exist, dense jungles and native flora that are extraordinarily similar to that found on Earth. So for the sakes of just human colonization, you couldn't get a more perfect world to colonize. It is literally ready for human habitation if it wasn't for the fact that when we arrived on this planet for the first time, there were already ruins on the surface that bore a striking resemblance to that of both modern and ancient human civilizations and Forerunner aesthetics. Imagine arriving on this world for the first time as a member of humanity 500 years in the future during colonization efforts and in the midst of an immense war with an alien civilization, finding a planet that is perfectly suited to colonization and then finding ruins on that surface. And as you move through the ruins and the immense temple-like structures, not only does their architecture bear a striking resemblance to that of your own human culture, but that there are statues and murals within these structures that are irrevocably human. The architectural style of these buildings seem to have almost taken heavy inspiration from Greco-Roman, Middle Eastern, East Asian, and even Southern American architectural styles from civilizations long since past. Add to this the markedly alien aesthetics of Forerunner architecture, their large, geometric, seemingly gravity-defying architectural design, but in almost stone obelisk stylization, along with some locations having almost 19th to 20th century industrial machinery within some of the ruins. This is a strikingly interesting planet, to say the least, with the implication being that the age of these ruins suggests this is an unknown portion of ancient human culture that we were utterly unaware of, and yet upon its discovery would fundamentally alter what we believe to be the origin of the human species. However, upon further investigation, likely involving carbon dating, some really eerie truths suddenly become apparent. The vast majority of the ancient relics that are on this planet, the buildings, the immense structures, the temples, the statues of apparently human or human-like beings, all date back to a time before 100,000 years ago. And indeed, the sheer scale of some of these ruins suggests that the human-like species that were once occupying it were much larger than modern-day humans. However, there is an anomaly on this planet. All of these relics date back to over 100,000 years ago, with the exception of at least one. This building, in the same or similar architectural designs and styles of the others, was not built 100,000 years ago. It was built likely a few millennia before the advent of human spaceflight in the 20th century. This means that this particular building dates back to only a few thousand years ago, and seemingly a species was occupying the planet at this time. This raises immediate questions. Who were they as a species? Were they a completely separate species that simply designed and built a structure in the style of the other structures they'd found? Were they residents of this planet, or had they arrived here from somewhere else? Or, if they were humans, were they the same humans, or at least the same lineage of humans that lived at the time of the Foreigners? Were they ancient humans that had somehow managed to get away from the Foreigners when they devolved our race, and somehow survived the activation of the halo arrays? I'm personally inclined to believe the latter, but it's also the dates which bear a particular interest to me. On the assumption that this temple of sorts was designed and built by an ancient human civilization that had managed to survive the Foreigner's devolution, the war with the Flood, and the firing of the halo array, this means these are ancient humans in the truest sense. These are our ancestors, our advanced, technologically superior ancient human ancestors. And the time involved means that they were prevalent on this planet several millennia ago. And that lines up eerily with the establishment of some of the first civilizations, the first great civilizations, here on Earth. And then suddenly things begin to make an uncomfortable amount of sense. Ancient humans and the Foreigners warred against each other. In truth, it was a war of misunderstanding, but nevertheless, the Foreigners won. They devolved humanity and then indexed humanity, so that when ultimately their fight with the Flood came to its end and they fired the halos, humanity would be reseeded and become the reclaimers of everything they left behind. But unbeknownst to the Foreigners, a small population of ancient humans as they originally were survived, perhaps fleeing away from the Foreigners when humanity was devolved, and somehow managed to evade the Flood and avoid the effects of the halo array, returning to the galaxy thereafter and going to many of their old homeworlds, including planet Heian, where they perhaps set down roots and allowed their civilization to grow once more, before once again setting off into the cosmos, bound for their original homeworld, Earth. And when they arrived a few thousand years in the past and found a version of themselves, a devolved version of humanity, living on the planet. And upon seeing their own race having been devolved at the hands of the Foreigners and then reseeded here on Earth, living in primitive fashion, they then gestured a hand to ancient humanity and bestowed upon us technology, civilization, society, farming techniques, from which we deduced our own architectural styles in their image. And these human beings, far in advance of our ancient ancestors and far larger in stature, would appear to us as gods. And from this interaction between the ancient ancestors, the advanced human species, and the devolved primitive human beings living here on Earth a few thousand years ago, the first great civilizations came into being. The Sumerians, the Egyptians, the Indus Valley, the Minoans, the Akkadians, the Babylonians, the Greeks, the Mayans, the Incas, all being civilizations separated by immense gulfs of time, and indeed separated by continents. Yet every one of the civilizations built similar structures, with similar orientations to the night skies, and with some knowledge of the cosmos that was only rediscovered with the invention of the telescope in the contemporary era. This would mean that the ancient gods of these ancient civilizations, the Anunnaki, the Egyptian gods, the Greek gods, the Incan gods, the Indus Valley gods, all of them, aren't actually gods per se, but simply ancient humans whom still possessed the immense knowledge, technology, and stature of our original species, and thus appeared to a more primitive human mind as gods, able to perform godlike feats. In a nutshell, what I'm getting at is this. Is every ancient human civilization here on Earth that bears such striking resemblances to each other in their architectural style and their understanding of the cosmos, in spite of being separated by immense gulfs of time and indeed continents, and as far as we're aware an inability to contact or travel to one another, were they all inspired to go from basically hunter-gatherers to creating the first civilizations by our strikingly more advanced ancestral humans, arriving here on Earth and gifting us their knowledge and technology that would ultimately take root and develop and continue to innovate until we have today's modern civilization that then continues to develop 500 years into the future, where we come across the planet that these ancient ancestors once occupied, and finally the truth of our origin rings true. Are the gods of our ancient civilizations just stories that we told ourselves to fill in the gaps of our understanding of the universe? Or were they actually ancient, more advanced versions of humanity coming to help us once again climb the ladder of civilization to preeminence? And was it that made ancient humans suddenly shift from being small hunter-gatherer tribes to building the first great civilizations? Leave your comments down below, and until next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider hitting the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Be sure to like the video if you did, and pop a comment below on what you'd like me to cover next. I just want to take a moment to thank my patrons, Spartan10148, the Metarch of my facility, Falcon, Sylphia, Mikhail, Ashley, Jordan, and Esoteric Sight, my dutiful monitors, Darian, Legions Lost, Labrat, Spartan0137, Jacob Kemp, Sean, Element Zero, J3, Mr. Keys, Gunslinger, Evermore, Personal Devil, Aldeas, Toxic, Scion Esports, Gem Saber, and Relentless, my diligent sub-monitors, my fleet of Strato Sentinels, my loyal enforcers, and all other patrons who continue to support the channel. If you want your name on the end of the video and some perks earned along the way, head over to Patreon and consider supporting the channel yourself. Big shout out to my Tier 0 Transcendent YouTube members, Spartan137, Jacob Kemp, Talia, Fenrir, Bornstella, Jimbo, and Balaz, and all the other YouTube members keeping my installation running on that glorious vacuum energy, with a special mention to the Accursed Hunter. Shout out to John due to the mathematical formula used to determine the area within a pentadodecahedron. Oh, and Lena because that sandwich. And remember, there are tons of ways to support the channel and keep my installation pumping out content at a breakneck speed. Much love to you all, take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.